Welcome back to my channel. It's Ellie. Today I am very excited because I have a book haul with books published between 1900 and 1970. In the month of June, I am hosting Vintage June, which is a readathon about reading books that have been published between 1900 and 1970. I know many of you are fans of books published during this time, and I'm very excited about the readathon. I hope you can join me with one prompt or I have a pile of possibilities and see what you fancy reading during the month. So I'm very excited about these books because some of them are books that I've already read and I wanted to get a physical book. And some of them I'm very excited to read because are books that have been written by my favorite authors. The first book is Miss Bunkle's book. It is a book that I reread many times and I love it so much because it's very fun and lighthearted, and I love Miss Bunkle and the inhabitants of the town, and I love D.S. Stevenson. This was my first D.S. Stevenson. I decided to get this Persephone book. Persephone books are really lovely, and some of them, I'm not sure if all of them, but I think some of them have these beautiful end papers. I know Persephone books are very popular. I would love to hear if you have some Persephone books. The next book belongs also to a very well-known publisher, Farrow Middlebrow, and I am planning to get more books from this publisher. This year I discovered Molly Clavering, which was a very good friend of D.S. Stevenson. I love her writing style. It's very different from D.S. Stevenson's. I think very special. It feels like a contemporary writer in some ways, but at the same time you get to hear a lot about the things that were happening at the time where the book was written, and also lots of beautiful descriptions of nature. This book, Love Comes Home, takes place in summer, and I read it for the March Delights readathon and I enjoyed it a lot. There were some things I didn't like about the protagonists. In this case, they were not most of them were not people that you root for, but that are very likable in some ways. But there are lots of beautiful descriptions of nature, very evocative descriptions, and I also love the feeling of the family and friends just spending summer together, enjoying the weather, enjoying the events that were happening at the time. Let me know if you have read any book by Molly Clavering and which is your favorite. Then I have two cloth-bound books published by Penguin. The first one is Enchanted April, a book that I've already read. It was my favorite book of spring 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed this story because of the new beginnings for women. They become friends, but also they have to solve some personal problems, some really serious personal problems. I loved Enchanted April, and when I saw this edition, I couldn't resist. I love the color so much, and it's just beautiful and with beautiful flowers. It's really a nice copy. I also love the format of the book. And then I discovered this one that I've never heard about it, My Friend Maigret. It is translated from the French, and what caught my attention was that it's a mystery, and it is about Inspector Maigret, how he goes with I think an English colleague to the Mediterranean coast to solve a mystery. And I'm very excited about it because it belongs to a very long series. So if I like this, then I am very excited about reading the other ones. Then I have 4 books by one of my favorite authors, vintage authors, P.G. Wodehouse. This year was the year where I read my first P.G. Wodehouse book. Before, I only have read some short stories, and this time I could not stop listening to the audiobooks. I've got some new books that I cannot wait to start reading, and all of them are about the protagonists of Castle Blandings. So the first one is Pigs Have Wings. Castle Blandings is the story of Lord Emsworth, his sisters, his son, and his butler, and of course the Empress of Blandings, which is a pig that is very, very loved by by Lord Emsworth, and he is a prize-winning pig. And in the books, there is always the threat of pig nappings. And in this book, his neighbor, Lord Parslow, has his own pig, the Queen of Matchingham, and Lord Emsworth's brother, Galahad, wants to kidnap the pig. So I am looking forward to this one. It sounds like it's going to be very funny. This is a book, Summer Lining, that I've already read from the March Delights Readathon, and I wanted to have a physical copy. And in this book, Galahad Tripwood, who is Lord Emsworth's brother, is going to write a memoir, and many people are afraid of what it's going to tell, including Lord Emsworth's arch enemy, Sir Parslow. So this is lots of fun. The audiobook is fantastic. It's narrated by Stephen Fry. Then I have two collections of short stories. The first one is Blandings Castle. It says, meet the Empress of Blandings, one of the most famous pigs in fiction, in her literary debut. And I cannot wait to read it because when in the older books you just know that the Empress lives in Blandings Castle, but how she came there, I am very excited about it. And finally, The World of Blandings. It says, dive into the wonderful world of Woodhouse, where a comedy of errors awaits at every turn. Meet the regulars at Blandings, the engagingly Lord Emsworth, the efficient Baxter, whose attempts to bring order to the castle always end in disarray. I know, that was fun to read about. And I have some vintage children's books. The first one is this very lovely copy of The Kingdom of Carbonell, published in 1960. For the March Delights Readathon, I read this book and I loved it. This is the second in the Carbonell series. There are adorable moments, very charming moments about these two children that can speak with Carbonell, and now they are trying to help him. Carbonell is a magical cat, and when I read the first book last year, I was not expecting that I would love it as much as I do. I was surprised by the very cute details and this very charming vintage feeling. It is very atmospheric and I love the setting, and I definitely recommend to give this series a try. And finally, I got a children's classics collection, and I picked the books that have been published between 1900 and 1970. The first one is The Wizard of Oz, which was published in 1900. I've read it and I enjoy it. I've always wanted to read it because it's a so well-known classic and I enjoy the film a lot, so I was glad that I read it. The next one is a beautiful book, A Little Princess, published in 1905 by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and I am planning to reread it very soon. I enjoy her language very much. It's a very special book. Another beloved children's classic, published in 1908, The Wind and the Willows, with this really cute cover. A big part of this book takes place in summer. It could be a very appropriate vintage classic to read in June, and I've also been wanting to reread it, so I think during the summer I'm going to pick it up. The next classic is Peter Pan, published in 1911. I tried to read this book some time ago and I saw the benefits, so now I'm thinking about also picking it up in the next month. I hope you enjoyed this book haul. I would love to hear if you have some recommendations for vintage books. I think I am going to have another book haul because I think June is going to be the month where I get some exciting vintage books to add to my collection. Thanks so much for watching, and I will be seeing you very soon with another bookish video and maybe another vintage book haul. Bye!